Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. First off, before we get into this video, Dan Slott really stepped in it. And so we're going to go through how, why, and how is this world even existing right now. But we're going to get into that first. Check out Fatal. It's on Indiegogo right now. Help us to reach that 90K stretch goal. Everyone's books will be improved and upgraded. Help us get there. It really is one of the best books that you're seeing in indie comics right now. Also, Downcast is also available. Check them out, both out in the link in the description below. All right, so X-Men. Dan Slott wrote this particular issue of X-Men, and I'll say I have a lot of complaints about Dan Slott. I have got a few. Apparently, he's got a few about me too, because he has me blocked. I had to open him up in an incognito window to see what he's saying. However, he is at the least a competent writer. He knows how to structure a story. And generally speaking, and he's even said this himself, when he veers from the status quo, his goal is to park it right back at status quo again once he's finished with the story arc. That's pretty typical with most comics. When he did the whole Superior Spider-Man story arc, some people were annoyed and upset because it's Doc Ock you're actually reading about. But eventually, again, status quo comes back. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that reads comics for any length of time. In this case, we're reading X-Men, and we have Franklin Richards, who is son of Reed Richards, but also an X-Men because he had the X gene. But as we find out here in this particular page, Dan Slott writes that basically he doesn't really have the X gene. He just really wishes he had it for so long that it appeared that he did. And now he can't live on Krakoa. Dun, dun, dun. So, this obviously has something to do with the story. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a whole page wasted on it. If not more than a whole page wasted on it. It's going to lead somewhere. But rather than that, everybody is so obsessed with the X-Men being a direct analogy to current year issues that they're drawing insane conclusions. And so we're going to get to that. And it's kind of funny because this is the kind of world that Dan Slott has created. So I guess, it's par for the course. They're going to turn on you once they have no other targets. This is just how it works. All right, so here's Rando on Twitter. Don't contact any of these people. It's just not important. It doesn't matter. He says, I heard a new Fantastic Four did some dumb stuff. I didn't think it would be Dan Slott. Would rather casually reveal Franklin Richards has subconsciously been putting on the mutant equivalent of blackface since the 80s than acquiesce to doing anything interesting. Okay. So now it turns out it's blackface. All right, here's one. So Dan Slott really thought Franklin Richards saw this oppressed minority was cool, so he subsequently pretended to be a member. Was a great idea. Wow. Yeah. He's basically the Rachel Dolezal, I guess. That's what this comes down to. You couldn't draw any other conclusions that you feel like you belong with a certain group of people, and they who were once the outcasts are out making you the outcast. Like, there's a lot of other components that you could make out of this little bit of a plot turn, but that's not at all how it goes. Now, how would Dan Slott react to this? He could say, it's the X-Men, man. Like, you're looking way too deep into this and drawing really specific conclusions that you really, have no right to draw. He could say that, but he won't. Here's Dan Slott on a Twitter apology tour. I don't know what else to call it. A rant. Here we go. He says, about 10 hours ago, I was responding to someone who reached out to me to let me know that a scene I'd written in comics hurt them. The scene hurt them. Now, what happens if a scene you wrote in comics hurt me? And, we made, many of us made videos about it and complained that they were annoying, obnoxious, maybe even sometimes hurtful, I guess, if you want to use the word hurt. You didn't seem to care. But in this case, it matters for some reason. Probably because the difference is this person can cancel you. That's what's going to happen. All right, he continues. In part, my response, I said, I promise to keep yours and others' concerns in mind when moving forward. And another poster jumped in and said, "Sorry, but I don't believe you in the slightest." At that point, I made a personal decision that this second poster was someone I didn't wish to interact with online. How many people do you wish not to interact with online? All right, he continues. I didn't see that as any kind of possible starting point to a constructive or helpful interaction. I put this person on mute and was this was a personal choice for how I was going to deal with this online feed. I've been engaging with some posters, listening to them, apologizing to them if they were hurt by that scene, and trying to learn from the experience. I wish I could do this with everyone. He wishes he could do this with everyone. I don't think you really do. That sounds like a nightmare. He continues, and I also wish I was better at it, but I promise you that I'm working on it. It's the end of the day. Uh, and I went back and looked at the earlier post because it stayed with me and I wanted to address it. So I unmuted them. He continues, and they'd been posting to me all night. They had been. So maybe it was a good idea to mute them. There's so many I can't even count. Let's see, my not talking to them clearly made them post more and more and get angrier and angrier. Maybe sometimes a block is some way kinder than muting. Well, I don't know. you could just ignore people too. That works. The void can be cruel, so you can't talk to everyone. He continues. It's just going to keep going. I just wanted to let that person know that I'm sorry. You're sorry you didn't block them? Is that what you're sorry about? I'm so confused, Dan. So why are you apologizing for? I'm so confused about this. And where's my apology for being blocked? He said, my original sentiment stands. Whether they believe me or not, I'm not going to try and take the insights and passionate things I heard today and take them to heart and keep them in mind for the future. I do truly mean this. Was that the end? There we go. There's only so much any of us to go around. You do what you can. Reach out to people who want the conversation. Be kind and hope they will be kind back. And talk like you're both in a room and not on keyboards. But block when you must. This can be scary. Use self-care. Block when you must. I'm so confused. So if you're being harassed, you're being constantly harassed and badgered online, but the person's grievance technically you should agree with. Society says you should agree with their grievances because they've pulled the no greater Scotsman, right? They're a greater Scotsman than you. They're a greater SJW than you. So you should agree with them. Therefore, you can't block them or mute them. You had to apologize for that. But be ready to block the wrong kind of people. Like what is this? Does that person lead a harassment group? Here's this response. What does this even mean? What does it alter if the lack of doing so has informed you up to now? Like, what have you learned? It doesn't mean anything. It means he made a statement. There's honestly, there's nothing to say. Yeah, people were offended by a comic book because they've read into it way too much. They've made it an analogy, an allegory for something that X-Men really never was. The nice thing about X-Men is you can think of yourself as an outsider. You can relate to it in that terms. But here's something too. I've never liked the X. I don't care about the X-Men. Wolverine is an interesting character to me. Beside that, I don't care. I never have. Does that make me a bad person? I don't know. But all we can agree on is that I guess it makes Dan Slott a bad person. So we can enjoy it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you read that episode or that issue rather of X-Men? And is Dan Slott in big trouble? Will he be canceled? Will his book be canceled? And have you backed Fatal yet on Indiegogo? The link is in the description below. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video.